Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles and his players kept the details of the jack position pretty quiet throughout the preseason camp. We tried to pull some things out of them. They kept it away from us when we were able to watch practice and things like that. They weren't really showing us much. So these first 2 games were our best look at what they're doing with the jack position with Jack Sawyer. No relation, coincidentally named. I'm Nathan Baird from cleveland.com along with Stephen Means. And Stephen, both of us came here today excited to see that Jack Sawyer was on the list of players to get to talk to so we can say what exactly is going on up there. My main question for him was going to be, how's this working? Like, is everything coming in from the sideline? Do you get to make reads? And he's being a little bit vague with it, but there is some of that going on where he's up at the line of scrimmage and making some decisions on his own, what he's supposed to do. But there is also, as you would expect with Jim Knowles, a lot of times a method to the madness.
Trying to parcel through him not trying to talk about it while talking about it, it seems very much like Jim Knowles tells him like where he's standing, but what gap he decides to attack is a little bit more on him. Because he even said that he does have a little bit of freedom, even if Jim Knowles is still kind of telling him where to go. And I think that's the best way to put it right now. It's almost, let's look at it from like the quarterback situation with C.J. Stroud. Last year, he'd look at the sideline to Ryan Day for everything. And then now in year 2, he's getting a little bit more on his plate. He has a little bit more responsibility. Well, let's think about it like this. Jack Sawyer's in year 1 of being the Jack. He's not a Leo yet, which even when you asked him, like, what does it take to be a Leo and stuff like that, he's like, I don't know. You got to talk to the coaches about that type of stuff. Right now, he's still a Jack. So for the most part, outside of, like, the athletic instincts that comes with playing football, Jim Knowles is telling him what to do. Let's see where that is in 6 or 7 weeks from now when he's a little bit more accustomed, if it is a little bit more put on Jack's plate, to have a little bit more freedom to not just pick a gap, but pick whether or not he's standing over a defensive tackle or the 3-tech or he's out on the edge.
Yeah, I get the impression that the Leo thing is maybe like a 2023 thing. And Jack Sawyer even said that, like, that's almost like grad school or something for this position. And we'll talk about that, I think, more down the line, because right now it is still much more about like the basics and him just kind of getting his feet under him at this position. But from going back through last night and sort of studying the snaps of the last couple games, they didn't use it a lot against Arkansas State. I think we've seen that Jim Knowles is still trying to keep as much of this to himself as he can, not put too much on film if he doesn't have to. But we saw it a little bit more extensively against Notre Dame. We saw them using it a couple of Notre Dame possessions where they were sort of penned down inside their 10 or 15. And I wonder, I didn't get to ask Jim Knowles about it the other day, but that might be part of the strategy, why schematically you would use that in those situations. It also seems like a thing that is helping free up some other people. And Tommy Eichenberg has been a guy that they've been really using as a weapon on the blitz. Like, Knowles brings him a lot, and it's happening in conjunction with that jack position. So there's times where, like, when you're watching a game, it can be hard to distinguish who's who there, which one is going through, because they're standing next to each other. One's 33, one's 35, and they're both on the attack. So it's another example of how this defense is already really playing like downhill and aggressive, and it would be doing that anyway. This is a completely other, a new wrinkle to that. And the other thing that is, I think, made the jack possible is Mike Hall, because they had to have someone who had the girth to line up over a tackle, but who was also agile enough to do the other things, to have that kind of, to be able to get around a tackle, to be able to do some more athletic things on the end.
Yeah, that's the key thing. It's still a 4-2-5, even with the Jack doing whatever he's doing. You don't have to take a defensive tackle off the field if it's Mike Hall. While if you didn't have Mike Hall, maybe that edge would just be like Zach Harrison and then JT Tuimoloau on the other side, while Jack is just, it's more like a 3-3-5 instead of a 4-2-5. But Mike Hall being what he is has allowed Jack to maybe do a little bit more with that Jack position than maybe they would have had Mike Hall not been basically living in the back for the last 2 games.
So we're just going to keep tracking that as the season goes along, because I think it's going to be an interesting wrinkle for this defense, and one they're going to have to utilize, as they did against Notre Dame, against better teams and like better offenses, which Notre Dame is not one of those. But when they do play better offenses, I think that's going to be potentially a kind of a pivotal role in those games. Get the text, 614-350-3315. We're texting the intel that we're hearing from all like 8 guys that we talked to tonight, and we'll be texting you from pregame right before Ohio State kicks off with Toledo on Saturday night.